Interstate 93. Yeah. Alright, Interstate 93 is an often stunningly beautiful road as we remain in New England, where we were in the last episode, and really kind of the last few, since I-90, I-89 are all New England as well. Alright, so let's take a look at the route of I-93. It starts out in the South Boston suburbs, goes through downtown Boston, and makes its way to St. Johnsbury, Vermont, or thereabouts. You're watching Control City Freak. This is the YouTube channel where we talk about interstate highways and the places that they're signed to go to. If you dig this kind of content, please give us a like, and if you're really into it, why not subscribe? Yeah, subscribe. And of course, you can request your exit for a $5 super thanks or super sticker. You can also just give one just for fun. I really appreciate it either way, and I'm happy to add all of these exits into these videos. It's been a lot of fun doing that so far, and I really appreciate your support. At this point, I would say I-94, the video will be done by the time this airs, so no 94 requests, but I am still taking requests for I-95. Let's talk about Northbound I-93. Northbound 93 begins here at a intersection with I-95. I-95 here will now be signed North Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and 93 North Boston, since 93 is the one that actually goes into town. Looking the other direction, we see 93 North Boston is kind of the through traffic here, and South 95 exits the road to go to Providence. Alright, and at an early interchange, exit 4 here, 93 is now signed for Braintree in Boston because Massachusetts likes to put two cities up on the sign in general, so we get a suburb thrown in there. We split from Route 3 and we are now on 93 US 1 north for Boston as it exits itself once again. You can see a little bit of the bay here as we near Boston, and we're going to be meeting I-90. It is signed for Logan Airport and Worcester, so that is good signage for I-90. North 93 Concord NH. We skip Manchester. A lot of people and a lot of, road geek level things like to argue about this one quite a bit. I'll think about it here. Here's a look at downtown Boston. As you see, we are going into the tunnel pretty soon, the Big Dig Tunnel right here. Here's a close-up of the entrance of the tunnel. It's the Tip O'Neill Jr. tunnel that we'll be entering. And this is what it looks like in the tunnel. We see there's an exit over there in the tunnel. Exit 17 is going to be coming out of the tunnel. And just a quick look at the Big Dig thing. So we see 93 used to be an elevated freeway, and it was completely put underground through downtown Boston. So you can see the current Rose Kennedy Greenway that's there. Here's a look at what it looks like. So a lot less intrusive than the old Central Artery used to be. So I know it was expensive and it took forever and blah blah blah, but I feel like it's a good thing to have now. And we cross the bridge over the Charles River as we come out of the tunnel, and we see we're going to have an exit for US 1 shortly. And we see a pull through for North 93 Concord. So Concord, it's more famous than Manchester, I think. It's also the state capital, but then again, Manchester is closer and it's a bigger city. I think the solution here would be to do what Massachusetts usually does and just put both of them on there. I don't know why they don't do that here. We're meeting 95. 95 South Waltham makes sense. You're not going to sign Providence when you're this far up. You're not going to drive all the way out to I-95 and then loop back. And then 95 North Peabody. That seems a little weird. I don't know why that's not Portsmouth for North 95. And we see there's a sign for North 128 as well, since, from what I understand, everybody in Massachusetts still refers to I-95 as 128. We meet 495, which also could theoretically be signed for Portsmouth northbound here. I gotta say, Lawrence is just fine. Lawrence was named after Amos Lawrence, and then his son, Amos A. Lawrence, is who my hometown is named for. He was the founder of Lawrence, Kansas, and my alma mater at KU, so fine with Lawrence being on the sign there. And 495 South Lowell also makes sense. Lowell's a fairly big city. Signing that, especially on a 3-digit interstate, A-okay. And we continue where we are on 93 North Concord NH. They got that NH in every single one, but there is a fairly famous Concord, Massachusetts, so I understand that. We see at that interchange, we got 93 North Concord, New Hampshire. Welcome to New Hampshire. Easily the best state motto we got there. Live free or die. Right on. We get 93 North Derry and Manchester once we are in New Hampshire. So Concord goes away and we get Derry on there for some reason. But now on this big overhead sign we get Manchester and Concord. So I feel like that's what Massachusetts should have been doing the whole time. We're meeting 293 North and 293 is signed for Manchester. So now North 93, Concord and the Seacoast. We're splitting with 101 for Portsmouth and Seacoast, so now 93 North, Concord, and Plymouth. At random interchanges, it is 93 North, Concord that is listed. And now we're meeting the north end of 293, and it is signed south for Manchester. And we are going to be on a toll road, North 93 to I-89, Concord. I like that 89 on there, and of course I love that a toll road. And we're getting our toll plaza in half a mile, and it's $1. Wow, quite a discount for Northeast toll roads here. It's not very long, but at least it's cheap. And here's what the toll booth looks like, and you can see that car's $1 right there. We get our split with I-89 for Lebanon and White River Junction, and we get North 93 to 393, Concord and Portsmouth. Here's a look at the New Hampshire State Capitol. We can see it from the side of the road beyond that Burlington coat factory. And here we're meeting East 393, signed for Loudon and Portsmouth. So from that point, we are now on North 93 Plymouth, which is not a place in New Hampshire that I'm familiar with, but once we're north of Concord, the metro areas take a pretty quick drop so far as size goes. I don't know what they're doing here, though. These 3 small towns, not even Plymouth, 3 places I've never heard of. All 3 of them only 20 miles away. Pretty dumb signage there. And at this interchange, North 93 is signed for Northampton and Plymouth. Here's our exit for Plymouth. We do get sort of an overhead sign here, but we get no pull-through sign, so it doesn't quite make my Control City muster here. At that interchange, we get 93 signed north for Campton and Littleton. Neither of those are large places. Right here is where I-93 is going to start getting super awesome as we go into the mountains here and we go into the Franconia Notch area. So speed limit goes down to 45 and we are merged into a Super 2 configuration here. 93 is only 1 lane in each direction. Here's kind of the end of the 2-lane section, and we're going to be merged to just 1 lane each way soon. I've got a few pictures here. This is just amazingly beautiful looking, and I really got to check out this road. Here's another awesome view of this road. And we pass one of a couple of the lakes that we pass, so it looks even more scenic. Just fantastic scenery here. It looks like Colorado. This is one of the rest areas along this road, so even that looks like it's absolutely amazing. Get kind of a weird North 93 US 3 sign here, and still nice scenery. And here we approach the other lake, so still looking good. And at this interchange, I-93 is going to be signed for Littleton north of here. Here's our exit for Littleton. It is an overhead sign, but again, we get no pull-through, so it doesn't quite meet the standard that we would want it to meet. Now from Littleton, we're going to be getting St. Johnsbury, Vermont for northbound I-93. And now we get St. Johnsbury, Vermont 15 and Canada 65, and that is the correct choice, I believe, of what they should be doing here. Here we cross the Connecticut River, and we can see that Welcome to Vermont sign right in front of us as we cross the river. We've seen that sign before, though. You can look in the I-91 episode to see a better view of it if you want. And we're getting the junction with I-91, so southbound 91 for White River Junction, northbound for St. Johnsbury. And the very end, we get one of these dividing line things, and I love these signs. I don't know why. I just like these. If you can't have a 93N sign, then this is the next best thing. All right, let's talk about southbound I-93. Southbound I-93 begins here at this intersection with I-91, so it is signed south for Littleton, New Hampshire, which makes sense northbound, but I don't think it makes sense in this direction southbound. It should be signed for a larger city in New Hampshire, if not just Boston. And on the mileage sign, we get Littleton, New Hampshire, and Plymouth, New Hampshire here in Vermont, so we get that NH on both of them. At this random interchange, we get St. Johnsbury 5 in this direction and Littleton, New Hampshire the other way. Mark HB1 had this super-like request for exit 40 in New Hampshire. Pretty cool looking sign here for Portland. I'm glad he brought it to our attention. Thanks so much, Mark. We cross the Connecticut River once again, and we will be going into New Hampshire. Here in Littleton for 93 South, we do get Concord on the random interchange sign, so that's good to see. But on mileage signs, we're getting Franconia 4 and Plymouth 44, so I don't know about that. You could probably skip Plymouth and go straight for Concord. But here we get Plymouth 36, Boston 151. So that's pretty nifty that they throw a Boston in there. All right, let's go back into that beautiful Franconia Notch section. Looks amazing going southbound. We pass that lake once again, looking pretty good. Here's right where the Old Man and the Mountain used to be. You used to be able to see it right from I-93. It was one of the biggest tourist attractions, if not the biggest tourist attraction in New Hampshire. And here's another view of the mountain where the Old Man face used to be. It's a shame that it's gone. We continue south and it still looks absolutely amazing. Here we're coming toward the end of our Super 2 section, but even once we're back to normal interstate standard lanes, it still looks pretty nice here in northern New Hampshire. Random interchanges, we get South 93 for Ashland and Concord, and now Ashland 4, Concord 39. We meet 393 for Loudon and Portsmouth once again, and here's another look at Concord. We can see that New Hampshire State Capitol building there in the center, meaning I-89 north for Lebanon, White River Junction, and we're back on a toll road for 93 south for Manchester and Boston. So I do like putting Boston up there. We're meeting 293 for Manchester and Nashua, and 93 itself is going to be signed south for Salem and Boston. And here's a look at downtown Manchester and 293, because if you take 293 through, you get to go through town a little bit more. However, on 293, there's not a downtown Manchester exit, at least that I could see. We just get West Manchester, which is a separate place. But this is where you would get off for downtown as well, I think. And we continue to follow 293, so now we're on South 293 for Portsmouth and Milford. And we meet I-93 again, so 93 South, Salem, Boston, 93 North, Concord, Portsmouth. I don't know about having Salem on there. I feel like just Boston probably does the job, but I guess people have heard of Salem. Massachusetts welcomes you once again, and we meet 495. It's got the same control cities as before, and once again, this time, I am 100% okay with it. Now we're meeting 95 South for Waltham. I feel like probably you should have South Providence at this point, because isn't that the way they want you to go? They don't want you to take 93 through town, right? And 95 North Peabody, yeah, that doesn't make any sense either. Maybe it's you wouldn't have gone over to Portsmouth by looping around, and Peabody is the better way. But Waltham, I feel like Waltham should go there. Should be Providence. And here's Massachusetts Route 28 for Falls Way West in Medford. Thank you so much to Zach R. for this Superthanks. And old exit 33, the Larry Bird exit. We're crossing the bridge once again over the Charles River, and we see Logan Airport via 1A toll, the Callahan Tunnel use exit 17B, and we're going back into the Tip O'Neill Tunnel. Before we get there, though, we do drive right past the new Boston Garden, home of the Celtics and the Bruins here, and we get an exit for I-90 West when you are underground entirely, so that's probably easy to miss, like the ones in Kansas City, but pretty cool engineering though. And we come back out of the tunnel and we see I-90 below us there, the Mass Pike. We cross right over that, and we get an exit for Mass Ave that'll take you to Harvard and Roxbury, Andrew Square. And we are now on South 93 Quincy. I don't know about that. I think going straight to Providence would be the better way to go than going with a suburb. Here's our exit for Quincy, but we don't get a pull through on I-93 yet. And we meet Highway 3, Route 3 for Cape Cod, and now we're going to be on South 93 295, Providence, Rhode Island. And we maintain that overhead of South 93 and US 1 to I-95. And now we are meeting I-95, so now we get 95 north for Dedham and Portsmouth, New Hampshire. If you go straight, you'll be on 95 north, and you need to exit to get onto the more natural direction from this point to 95 south for Providence, Rhode Island. Alright, let's talk about Todds the way it should be for I-93. I'm going to say northbound it should be Boston, and then after that we should go with Manchester and Concord. I mean, Massachusetts usually signs 2, so this is a perfect opportunity to. And then after that, just Concord. I would actually sign Franconia Notch out of Concord, because I feel like that's probably the most famous place in northern New Hampshire, or north of Concord at least, and it's a pretty major tourist draw, so I feel like that would be more helpful there. And then from there, I would sign St. Johnsbury / Canada, which is what they do. Southbound, I'd sign Littleton from northbound 91, but from southbound 91, I would skip Littleton and sign either Concord or just Boston. And then south from Littleton, I'd sign Concord, and then Manchester, Boston as they do. Finally, Boston, and then Providence instead of Quincy once we are south of downtown Boston. Or, yeah, like I said, or we could just sign Boston from the jump for the entirety of South 93. It's really not that long of a road. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Control City Freak. I really appreciate it. Been great fun, and we got a big one coming up next week with I-94. But until then, my name is Todd, and keep on trucking.